like my very aesthetic kitchen. I have you turned in such a way that you can't see my fridge because it's covered in stuff. And my table is covered in stuff. And this counter right here is covered in stuff. Yeah, that's just what our life looks like. It's 8:30. What's the date today? Today is December the 4th. My kids just have a half day at school today, but my parents are coming up for a visit, and so they're gonna hang out with the boys this afternoon. And I'm gonna make a pair of socks, I think. So yesterday I didn't actually like introduce what I was doing, and so I'm gonna pretend like I'm doing that right now, and then we're gonna jump to what I was doing yesterday. But I didn't really like make a plan for like everything I wanted to do for Vlogmas, or even like how often I was gonna film, or if I was gonna do it every day. And you know, people have their little introduction and they show their day and they close off things in the evening or whatever. And like, I just not organized to think enough to do that. But also I found I've been really like, oh, I want to focus on this project. And so yesterday I was feeling motivated to make a pair of socks, and past me will tell you all about it when we jump to that, but I'm going to keep working on that today. So hopefully I will have something exciting to show you later today about that. I'm wearing my Luma sweater today by Sorry Nordland. Felt like a good cozy day for that. I also have a matching toque. I'm just going to go get it and show you. See? I had a little bit of leftover yarn because I was running out of yarn when I was knitting this sweater, and then a friend of mine sent me the rest of hers, and she sent me quite a bit, and so then I had a bit of leftover, and so I made actually 2 toques, but one of them I didn't really pay attention to like how tall the motif was going to be, and that it's like the toque is quite tall, but I like this one. I wear it a lot. And then this morning I had on my, I think they're just called Selbu mitts, maybe by Skein not sure, but that I made in Brooklyn Tweed Arbor last year, and so it's a very black and white vibe this morning. We were running late this morning, so I didn't even like walk my kids to their door. We were so late that they had to like go into the front doors of the office. So I just like dropped them off in the front and they ran in. Usually I'm out in the snow with all of my knitwear on. I'm waiting for the bell to go with my kids. So anyways, I'm gonna eat my breakfast and jump right into making socks. Good morning. I am literally just doing what I want to do, and today I was feeling motivated to talk about my knitting machine, and I have ran into a problem with it a couple weeks ago. I haven't touched it since. I want to try and make a pair of Christmas socks, and so if I was feeling motivated to do that today, then we are going to follow that train of motivation. So here is my knitting machine. It is a Passap Duomatic 80. It is a double bed, flat bed knitting machine that allows you to knit the round, knit ribbing. There's different stitch options. You can make tuck stitches and different ribbing options. There's a attachment that you can do with a punch card in it, so that you can do different stitch patterns. You can do color work designs. I haven't figured out how to use that part yet. I acquired this machine in the summer. I previously owned the same model. I bought it in 2022, I believe, and knit a handful of things on it. And then it felt like too much at the time to be trying to learn it. I was also pregnant, and that's when I was pregnant with Beth. And it felt like this thing hanging over me that I like had to learn how to use my knitting machine that I had spent all this money on. And then I did make some things. I brought my machine knit socks over to show you. But anyways, then when we lost Beth, and I was like, for sure, like, I'm not learning this. This is not time for this. I sold the machine. And then like very quickly regretted that decision. I didn't need to sell it. I could have just stored it until I felt like I was ready to use it again. Anyways, the summer one popped up on my local buy and sell group, and I like went that day and bought it, and I've been slowly figuring some things out on it. And so I've talked about in a couple of podcast episodes ago about making a little like ribbing headband for my son, and then I was going to use it to make my button band for my Riggy's cardi, and then that didn't work. I was trying to make a sock a couple weeks ago, ran into some problems. That's where I've stalled out right now. And so we're going to take this project off of the machine and try again. So a couple other random things about this machine. I was trying to figure out when it was from. I don't know. I couldn't find a date of like when it was manufactured, but from the documentation with it, I want to say like it gives me like 70s vibes, 80s vibes. There isn't a date in the user manual about when it's from. The person who I bought this from had quite a bit of other documentation stuff. There used to be like magazines with patterns in it, and I have a bunch of different booklets, and there used to be a couple of groups here locally apparently that did like machine knitting workshops, and so there's like some like workshop handouts and stuff that I got, and so I spent a bit of time a couple weeks ago looking through all of that, which was kind of fun. And there is some good tutorials on YouTube. And so since I sold the last one and then acquired this one, there's another channel that has popped up that is also quite that's quite informative and very nicely explained, good visuals of like the different things about the machine. And so I've been using that channel to try and learn some more. So that's the sock pattern that I was following, was from that YouTube video, which I will do again today. There's definitely a learning curve. Like the machine itself can be a little bit finicky. You have to find the right stitch size that matches your yarn weight. And I think that's where I've been running into problems. I think that the yarn that I've been trying to use is too thick, but we'll get to that in a minute. There's just some general troubleshooting things to like figure out, like if you drop a stitch and like how do you fix that, like how do you ladder it back up again, and yeah, just making sure tension things are right. Yeah, a few different things with like general learning curve about it. Probably jumping into socks is like not ideal. The instruction manual has a couple of projects that you can do to kind of learn the machine, and so here's a picture of one of them. And so it goes through a bunch of the different stitch options, like the different stitch settings, and then it gives you like a sampler then of like all the different things. The book has some instructions about how to do some projects. It's not the best for learning, I find. It's like you have to know things already before you can follow along with their instructions. And then also some of the pieces are just like, I'm not going to make that, you know. A couple of the other pattern books I have, it's like, oh yeah, this they were a product of their time. They're not quite in style anymore. Anyways, so let me show you the machine a little bit more. Okay, so this is the bed of the machine. This is why it's called a flat bed versus it being like a circular sock machine. However, it has a bed on the front and a bed on the back. And this is called the carriage, and this is all the different settings and stuff that are on it. And depending on what setting you're on, it tells the beds what to do. You can tell it to just be knitting the front bed or just the back bed, or knit in a circle, or knit so that this edge is connected but not this edge. Yeah, lots of different things. There's the yarn masts that you thread the machine through. This machine came with a 4 color changer, which is kind of nice. My last one had 2, and you can thread up to 4 different colors in and then switch them on the fly, which is kind of cool. There's a little tray down there with just some accessories and stuff. These little cups are meant for holding yarn, but also I just put a bunch of accessories in them. You knit it back and forth, and then the project comes out below. So there's my attempt at a sock at this time. Oh, here is some really, really big cones of yarn that here's my phone as a comparison of like how big those are. That I had bought those the first time around, and we'll probably never get through them all. So here's a couple of pairs of socks that I made on it. I was looking back at some videos and pictures and stuff from the first time around, and that was just kind of interesting. I made these socks within like a week, I think, of getting the machine. And I just made a tube, and I think I did the decreases for the toes on the machine. You can also do a short row heel on the machine, which I did later, but I didn't do it on my first pair. And then I also just never cut in heels for these. And so they're essentially like a true tube sock. And I wear them. They're very thick and cozy. This is Patton's Croy. I've since learned that this is like a little bit thick for this machine to handle. I don't remember what the yardage is now about on Patton's Croy, but it's like a little bit more like a sport weight. The yarn that I'm using right now, I'm pretty sure is 400 meters per 100 grams, and it is behaving like it is too thick for this machine. So anyways, here's another pair of socks that I made. This time using the machine to make short rows, which have some holes, and did the wedge toe the same way that you would just like standard hand knit some. This is Sassy Strings, a Christmas colorway. I don't remember the name of right now, but then I made another pair, but shorties. And this time I adapted the pattern to start cast on at the toe and then go toe up, and then just did a rolled hem at the top. And this time I did, I think, a better job on my short row heel, except, so remember I would have made these in 2022. Literally like a couple of months ago, I was putting on these socks and noticed a run, and somewhere in my short row heel I had dropped a stitch and not realized it, and it had just not come out yet. And so it had laddered. I have some, I've saved it now on some stitch markers, but it had started to ladder down probably like, I don't know, 8 rows maybe. And I need to find some more of this yarn, and then so I can do a little repair on that point there. But I was surprised. They've been worn multiple times. They've been washed multiple times, and I had an unsecured stitch that whole time. So a little bit fiddly then, trying to work, say, like a short row heel. It's easy to drop stitches, and apparently easy to not realize it. So the one thing about knitting ribbing is that you can't knit the ribbing in the round. You have to knit the ribbing flat and then seam it together. So these ones that have the ribbing on the cuff, the ribbing is knit flat, and then there's a seam up the side. That doesn't feel super ideal to me just because it's not as comfortable. Some of the patterns that I had been following have you knit so that the seam then goes up the back of the heel, and I didn't like that, and so I modified it to make the seam go up the side. So anyways, there's my 3 successful pairs of socks as proof of concept that this machine can make socks. I'm now currently at a point in this sock project. I knit the ribbing flat, I join for in the round, and it is so hard to move the locks across to actually knit the stitches. I have to like use my entire body weight to move the lock, and that's not right. Like it shouldn't be like that. And I've adjusted all of my stitch sizes. I had done a couple of little swatches and made notes of what my stitch sizes were, everything. And now when I'm actually trying to knit the sock, it's not working. So I'm going to double check what this yarn is. I had bought this yarn back when I had my circular sock machine, and it was also not working on the circular sock machine. And that final attempt was what was like, okay, I'm done. I'm feeling much more motivated with this machine to actually learn it. I don't know why. I think it's just like there's a lot more potential of like different things that you can do with it. Okay, it is the Rylana Flauta Sock 4. It is classified as a light fingering, 420 meters per 100 grams. It is not behaving that way. Editing Kirsten here. I just went to go find a picture of the ball of sock yarn to put it up on the screen and be a fancy podcaster. And I might have not had the right yarn in mind. There's 2 different versions. One's a 4-ply and one's a 6-ply. The 4-ply is 420 meters per 100 grams. The 6-ply is 250 meters per 100 grams. And I don't think I have the ball band. And I had just looked up to find the picture of the yarn from the Fiber Nook website where I had bought it. And I think I picked the wrong one. So maybe that is explaining everything. It is not light fingering weight. It is perhaps sport leaning on DK. anyways, the issue you will see soon is that it wasn't just the yarn. Yeah. And I'm in a lot of Facebook groups and stuff about using these machines, and using the proper yarn weight is often the thing that comes up. People are having problems, it's not knitting easily, stitches are dropping, and like almost always the answer is like you need to use a lighter weight yarn. I feel like these are proof that I could be using a sport weight yarn. I don't know why this one's not working. Anyways, this has just been stuck on my machine for a while. And so what I'm going to do is thread up my lace weight yarn that's on the really big cones. I've been using that as just like scrap yarn. And I'm going to knit across and knit this off of the machine so I can keep what I have and maybe one day do something with it. And then we will try again with some different yarn. So that's what the lock looks like when it's moving. If I just was to go across right now, it would try and knit all these stitches, and that is the issue that I've been having, is that it's not knitting properly. And so what I'm going to do is change the lock setting on the front and the back so that it doesn't knit. The GX setting is just called free move, and so it should just move across without lifting any needles. Beautiful. I'm trying to remember how to thread it. Oh, it's been a little while. Okay, the machine is threaded. We are going to change that back to circular knitting. And then let's cross our fingers. So that just knit that way and that way. So it's like one complete round. There's also a little counter here. When it goes past this trigger, then it counts how many rows you've done. But that was like 2 rows that counts as 1 round of our sock. But yeah, I'm just trying to get it off of the machine. That just put my yarn back into the holder here. There we go. Oh man, this looks weird. What have I done? Huh. Okay, here's my beautiful ribbing of my sock. Look how like stretchy and squishy and beautiful that is. And now this is my sock tube. There's no hole. It's just every row is knit together. I must have had it on the wrong lock setting, because then when I switched to do the, like to knit off the machine, it's not attached together anymore. So it looked like it was doing 1 stitch on the front bed, 1 stitch on the back bed, instead of doing all of the front, then all of the back. Huh. So maybe, oh, I wonder if when I switched, when I was doing the ribbing, that's what it is. It's 1 on the front bed, 1 on the back bed, all the way across. And so then you have like a knit on the front, a knit on the back. It's basically like a knit and then a purl. And so then maybe when I switched to working in the round, I didn't adjust the lock setting. And so it was still trying to knit front and back at the same time. Ooh, and it would have been with twice as many needles. Okay, it's all coming together here now for me. Okay, so maybe it's not the yarn's fault. It's purely my fault. So that is encouraging, actually. So do I try again with this yarn? Or do I just jump right to the Christmas yarn? Because I could rehang this and just try and keep working on it. Rehanging it is very fiddly. I'm going to put this yarn to the side. It feels like it's too soon. Okay, this is the yarn I want to use because, hello, Christmas. So this is from Biscot Yarns, 85% super wash merino, 15% nylon, 400 meters per 100 grams. It's called Peppermint. And I won this at a knitting event like 2 years ago. And so it felt like a good low stakes yarn to try and knit with because I got it for free. So let's wind this up. Okay, beautiful yarn cake. So we're gonna do a tubular open cast on. That means it's gonna just be in the round and it's open at the bottom, not closed at the bottom. This is what I was trying to do for my button band on my Riggy's cardi. Didn't work, but we will do that. My color changer doesn't work super well. That is supposed to happen. They took the whole thing apart like a couple weeks ago, and I feel like that's not supposed to happen. But that all looks okay, so we're gonna switch to our main yarn. So I see I dropped a stitch. On that guy is a little bit broken. That's not good. I have spare needles that I can swap out, but it should not be this hard. In the YouTube videos, they just are like, can I say ta-da? Not sure. That must have been the stitch that kept dropping. Right there, I didn't always catch it, so some of them are. It's like a slip stitch kind of. One thing I am trying to do different this time is actually write myself notes. They haven't necessarily been helpful so far because I've never actually gotten to the point where I needed to like use them, but we will make note of what stitch count we ended up with. I'm going to check my gauge. 36 stitches per 4 inches and 48 rounds. That's a pretty rough estimate, but one of the reasons why I wanted to do the full stitch count so I could put it on my foot and see how it feels. It looks too loose to me, so that's why I'm like, obviously I should actually wash this, but I'm not gonna do that. Because part of it is finding like the stitch size on the lock that works well for the yarn, and then also finding a fabric that you like, right? And like, I would say that that feels a little bit loose to me. But if it's actually 36 stitches and 4 inches, like that's pretty standard sock gauge, I think, right? But the 64 stitches is too big. Okay, you know what I need to do is swap out that needle that's bent. Oh man, I bought spare needles and they're the wrong size. Ah, it's annoying. Okay, well, I'm gonna steal one from somewhere else on the bed, but show off what's wrong with that one. It's just like a little bit crooked, and then the latch was getting stuck behind like that, which is bad. So, okay, my finger's all greasy now. So what I could do is just knit a big long tube of the yarn, not worry about dividing it up evenly to like 50 grams, and then I can hand knit the heels, cuffs, and toes instead of me trying to do the ribbing on here, just because that's kind of fiddly and makes more room for error And then I don't think it's a good idea for me to try and do the short row heels right now, and I don't know what I'm doing. So it'd be kind of like I'm cranking a tube, right? It's just that it's not cranking, and it's uses my full body weight to move the machine. Let's do that. I had a problem and I fixed it. Okay, I had another problem, but I didn't fix it that time. I think we're on a roll now, which means it's time for me to listen to music. Okay, ran into some dilemmas. It was knitting across fine on the front bed, but on the back bed, it was getting increasingly harder and harder and harder to move the lock. I don't know if I have any videos of that. Oh, for sake. It was like, again, like I was saying before, like using all of my body weight, all of my strength in order to slide the lock, but it wasn't jamming. So like sometimes that happens where like the needles get jammed and like there's like a physical block that keeps the lock from moving back and forth. And that's not what was happening. And all the stitches were knitting properly once I finally got it across. Anyways, that was like many hours ago and I needed a break. I also posted in one of my Facebook groups that I'm in about it and got some suggestions, some different things. I added more oil just now. And I had been adding oil. There's some parts on the lock that get a bit of oil, and then kind of like along these tracks here where the lock slides. But somebody in the Facebook group made a comment about how, you know, like I was wondering why is there this difference between the front and the back bed? Like it didn't make sense. If the stitch size was inappropriate for the yarn weight, then like the front bed should also not be working. And so then somebody in the comment section said, you know, if previously the machine had mostly been used just for front bed knitting. And so then I was thinking there's something wrong with the lock, but I went and just like raised a couple of needles on the back bed and then compared to that to like raising them on the front bed. And like the ones on the back are a bit sticky. And so when I had taken things apart to clean it, I took the locks off and I had like vacuumed out the machine, but I didn't actually take out all of the needles and clean the needles and clean the tracks and stuff. But I think I might need to do that. And so what I did was add a little drop of oil into every needle channel along the back. And all of a sudden it's working so much better. It's still taking more effort than I think it should, but it's so much better. Also, look, there's my sock appearing. I have changed the needle size or the stitch size like quite a few times. Like went up, didn't make a difference, went back down, tried something else. And so I was using stitch size 5 and now I'm up to 6.5. So might have a funny shaped sock tube by the end of it, but at least I can knit. And so let's keep going. Just gonna add a little bit more oil into all of those. Okay, it's not all the way better. It's so much better. It's not all the way better. Oh my God, what's happening now? I think I started getting too confident. I snagged on something and made a big loop, so we're gonna unknit this row. Almost there. Okay. I did it, kind of. Oh my God, it's so loose. Definitely some stuff happening at the edge when it switches from the back bed to the front bed. And like, I caught one of those, but I guess I missed also other ones. I'd say that looks like a sock tube. It could be like, it's like a knee-high sock, and so then it like gets gradually bigger for your calf. Up here, I can pretend I did it on purpose. Those just seem to be loose spots. I don't see any dropped stitches or anything, which is surprising. Look at how neat and tidy those are. Versus here, they're definitely looser. But it's a good experiment. Let's decide now what we're gonna do. That's pretty knee high. If I was to split it in the middle and to put into two separate socks, this one would be way bigger. Obviously it's stretching out a little bit there over my calf, but those are pretty wacky Christmas socks. Do you think I could replicate it? If I figure out how many like rows I did at the smaller stitch size before I abandoned that. I kind of love them actually.
Every 8.
Oh. Okay, so I am gonna just turn this whole skein into a pair of very tall socks. Just because I can, I guess. I don't actually like love the stripe sequence. I wish that they were like smaller stripes instead of like the big chunks of white. And also like they're Christmas socks. Like it's fine. I can wear silly Christmas socks. So I need to try and remember what I did yesterday. But then also I'm going to figure out how many rows I would have done before I started changing stitch sizes. And I had been changing stitch sizes because the machine wasn't working. But in theory now, if it's working, now that I've oiled it better, then I should just be able to change the stitch sizes on purpose to get the desired effect that I want. So let's... I'm going to just count, I guess. Let's give it a go. Also, I get so hot doing this, so we do not need a woolly sweater on, even though it is 16 degrees down here. You know what? Yesterday, I was going to rewind the rest of this cake before I started knitting it with it again because it was starting to snag in the middle and that was causing me problems. Now that I actually have to do that, I don't want to, but I should. So I'm even going to pull out my old hand winder. The electric one winds a much tighter ball. Case in point, that was what was snagging when I was trying to finish up the tube yesterday. It actually takes less time for me to wind with this than it does with the electric one, but I hate standing here and winding yarn. And I also hate waiting for this to finish, but at least I don't have to stand there hunched over doing it myself. Okay, next very important step is that I need to listen to music because I went and saw Wicked last weekend. So like maybe the last Sunday in last Sunday in November, and I went and saw a double feature. And so like at 12:30 they played the first movie, and then there was a 15-minute break, and then they played the new movie. And it was incredible. And I've been listening to the soundtracks over and over again. And then I like wake up in the morning and they're like stuck in my head, and I am trying to do some other task and I'm like singing things in my head. And it's just, I have, what is this feeling like circulating in my brain right now, and I need to get it out by singing along. So I'm going to do that while I'm doing this. And don't worry, you won't be able to hear me because YouTube won't let me put licensed music in a video. So don't worry, you won't have to listen to me sing along. But yeah, it just needs to happen. It needs to get out of my brain. So, and we're just going to start at the beginning. So when I get to what is this feeling, then I can sing along. But first we'll start with No One Mourns the Wicked. Okay, I had my music going in my speaker, but the stupid knitting machine is so loud. Not stupid. The beautiful, useful frustrating knitting machine is so loud that I cannot adequately hear the music. So most of I can just hear myself singing. Like, nobody needs that. So now I have my headphones on so I can just really rock out. So I had got to What Is This Feeling? But now we're going back to The Wizard and I so I can sing along to that more passionately. Look! Man, that is 5,000 times more enjoyable when it's actually working. Like, it was so nice. You just like go and then you sing along. And it took me re-listening to Wizard and I, What Is This Feeling? Skipping over Something Bad, of course. And partway through Dancing Through Life. That's how long it took me to do the rest of that. I don't have any of those weird snags on the edges, which I'm pretty sure was because the tension coming out of the initial yarn cake was too tight. Here we go. Let's see how similar they are. One of them is a touch shorter, so I will just pick up for the toe, different spot. Cool. Maybe these look like the witch's stockings. Oh, what colors are they in the movie? I have to look that up now. Okay, no, right. The red ruby slippers, black and white stockings. So these are just Christmas. They're not Wicked Witch of the East. When I went to see Wicked, like the back-to-back, my 7-year-old was like, can I come? And I was like, no, I'm going just for me. And also like, no, you can't come see this movie with me. It's going to be too scary. We watched the old Wizard of Oz, which I also warned them. It was like the flying monkeys always freaked me out. And I don't know if I ever like sat through the entire movie because I got bored once they like met once they met the lion, then I think I kind of got bored. And so then I wouldn't finish it or something. But we sat and watched the whole movie together. I think they liked it. Once upon a time, I showed this on my Instagram after when I was at the movie, like at the Wicked movies. But when I was in high school, my high school did a production of Wizard of Oz. And I was the Tin Man. And my best friend was the Scarecrow. Although we were on different casts. And so I will now grace you with this beautiful photo of me as the Tin Man. And so that I was showing the kids then. Once we met the Tin Man on the movie, then I was like, hey guys, look. They were asking like, were you actually stuck? Like, did they actually have to put oil on you? And yeah, it was funny. So anyways, I'll show you my mini that I have that I'm going to use for the toes and the heels. I think I'm going to just do a folded hem at the top, which maybe would give me a little bit more structure at the top. I don't know how stretchy that is compared to ribbing. I also have never cut in a heel, an afterthought heel before. I have done a forethought heel, but I've never taken a tube and turned it into a full pair of socks. Is that right? I think so. So like that, well, this pair here, right, that I showed you, that's why I've never turned these into actual socks with a heel in them, because I didn't know where to cut the heel in. And I am going to learn that today because I'm going to do that to this pair. So it was sock washing day the other day. And so they were all still hanging in my laundry room. Now they're all in here. I have some that I would have done like a forethought heel on. And so that I can measure kind of like how long they were before the heel started. Okay, next up. This is my little green mini skein that I have. It's from New Mana, which is a local dyer to me. And it's 80/20 superwash merino nylon, 40 grams. And so this has been sitting in my jar of minis for years. I won this at a knitting event. And it's not super my color, but obviously this is very like Grinch Christmas vibes. And that is perfect for my knee-high stripy socks. Toe done. Oh, actually, I just remembered I was following a pattern but then I wasn't paying attention and accidentally decreased too many stitches. So to make a note of that so I don't forget, I was using, randomly, I just found the first cuff down pattern I could find for toe instructions, but this was a, what's it called? The Irene socks by Tracy of the Grocery Girls. I have 10 minutes before I have to go pick up my kids. So I might try and do a repair. Although actually, you know what I want to do first? So I have a advent calendar from Firefly Notes for stitch markers, and it's a 12-day one, and so I was gonna wait and like do it so I would do the 12 days leading up to Christmas, but then my husband said, like, why don't you do one every other day? And I was like, yeah, that sounds more fun, because then I get to open some right now. So I have 2 that I will open, so let's get that. And then I also got the little matching tin to go with it. Number 1. Oh, a little bee. Oh, it's so cute. That's adorable. Okay. And a little teapot. So cute. So I am gonna leave them in the box until I open all of them, because I want to see all of them together. Is that weird? I could just like take them out and put them in here. Do I need to know which order they came in? No. I'll make that decision later. Anyways. Okay, I'm on the final decreases of my second toe. This is like many hours later. I went and got the kids, we had lunch, parents got here, whatever. Now I'm heading downstairs and working on my second toe, and I started counting how many stitches I had left to see how many more decreases I had to do. And I have 14 on the front needle and 18 on the back needle. Like, that's not supposed to happen. And so I don't know what I did. I can't tell. Like, I think that I did the same decrease rate. I'm worried that when I started, I had too many stitches on my back needle. So I need to rip this out. I don't really want to do that. Because it does look like the decreases are like curling towards the front a little bit. And so if I just like had fewer stitches on the front, they're not distributed evenly. Also, maybe I could fudge something. Maybe I'll just fudge it. I'm to a point now where I'm decreasing every round. I have 2 more rounds of decreases left. So I have to decrease 4 on the front needle and 8 on the back needle. You know what? I'm just going to fudge it. Let's try. I will just throw in some more decreases. It doesn't have to be that, I don't know. It's not that big of a deal. Like, I need the right number of stitches on each needle when I go to graft them together again, but how we get there, it's like, it's probably fine. You know those jokes when you learn how to knit and then you discover that you can't count? It's real. Okay, I'm so glad I did that instead of ripping it out. That would have felt like an unnecessary extra step. They're just socks. They're crazy Christmas socks. It's really not that serious, you know? Can you see that? Like, it's not invisible, but like, it's fine, you know? And you can kind of see on this side how like it looks like the decreases are kind of more towards the front versus this one where they're just going right along the sides. So anyways, toes done. I'm gonna do all these repairs on here now, I think. Okay, there was one that was very long that I snipped and then woven like both directions, and the rest of them were so short, and so I was going to just like duplicate stitch over top of it. I just tied them in knots. So I like pulled them snug and then tied them in knots. That is not the best way to go about that. But again, they're just wacky Christmas socks. It's not that serious. So I'm gonna pick up the cuff now and do a folded cuff on the top. Okay, I was trying to fold it down and like pick up a bar on the row that I'm trying to fold on and then knit them together, whatever. Anyways, thankfully I didn't get very far because it was going to be way too tight, and like this is already like has to stretch quite a bit to get up all the way to my knee, and so I'm gonna just bind it off like normal and then stitch the cuff down. Okay, I did Jenny surprisingly stretchy bind off, and that is how much yarn I had left, so that was lucky. I'm gonna try and put it on over top of my tights. Listen, here's the thing. That is stretched to its max circumference with the bind offs that I did. And I'm just gonna leave it like that, I think. Normally if you were knitting knee-high socks, you would be increasing stitches, not just increasing your stitch size, you know? It won't even fit all the way onto my foot because of my tights, but it's like the Rose City Rollers socks. They just have a rolled edge, like it's a cast on instead of a bind off edge, but that's a thing. Could be a thing on these. It's chilly out this morning. Not actually that chilly, but also there was freezing rain last night, I guess, and my van doors were iced shut, and then the driveway was icy, and I for sure biffed it. Okay, it is another day. There's another coffee. It's Friday, December 5th now. I did not finish my socks yesterday. And then I had to start editing all of this footage, and that takes a really long time. So, we're going to finish the socks today, and then I will have some silly Christmas socks. I was just started filming in slow motion. Thankfully, I noticed that. Okay, I'm like a quarter of the way done my heel. I looked up a tutorial by Earth Tones Girl about doing a afterthought heel, and I'm glad I did. There were some really good tips in it, and hopefully I put it in the right spot. But my edges, one of my edges is looking a little bit wonky. This stitch right here is all stretched out. The other side looks better, so I don't know what was going on there, but I'm going to show off all my finished stitches. And then I pulled my needle out. So I decreased till I had 10 stitches left. And now I'm going to graft up the heel without pulling my needles out by accident. Now I'll do the other one.